the back at ya. Eye for an eye. More speed. I condemn you! You can't run! Rack and ruin! Judgment! You can't run! I condemn you! As a dutiful maid would. Steady as stone. Rack and ruin. needs assistance. Add.
Ancient alchemy truly is fast.
Have you heard? The rite of parting.
The rite of parting?
I wanted my hepatitis C gone.
I put off treating mine.
What nice things did we used to have, until they got ruined by idiots. I used to work at Tim Hortons and we were located right beside a homeless shelter. So every night, we would take all the food that was still fresh and give it to charity. It wasn't a lot, usually like a box or Timbits and about a dozen donuts. Until one day, the regional manager came and shut the whole thing down. He didn't tell us why, only to never do it again or we will be fired. We never questioned it and just held the resentment of Tim Hortons in our hearts. Like, how cheap do you have to be that you would rather have us throw away consumable food? A few months later, a homeless man came in right as we were throwing food in a garbage bag. He goes, "Oh, it's such a pity. I used to love eating your guys' donuts until that freaking idiot had to ruin it." My coworker said, "Yeah, that's honestly fricked up. Corporation greed." You know, the homeless man gave us a weird look. He goes, "Nah, that's not what happened. One of the fuckheads at the shelter faked choking on a Timbit and tried to sue this store. That's why they cut us off." I went to college in NYC and my school's
I
dining hall
condemn you.
used to do this to eliminate food
Freeze
waste
to the
and cut
core.
down on food insecurity in the area. But then someone claimed the food made them sick and tried to sue, so that was the end of it. My parents' old apartment had this little dog park. Our greyhound loved it because she could go run
You can't
everywhere.
run.
They closed it because people wouldn't pick
Eye
up
for
their
an
dog's
eye.
poo. They would just leave piles of crap, despite management sending letters out. I'm still salty about that one. Don't get a dog if you can't pick up their messes.
I condemn you.
Very dumb
Eye
and
for an
wrong,
eye. Good
but I think
grief.
it goes to show how selfish people can be.
Lights out.
A few years ago, a guy on Twitter shared his Starbucks card information and told people to put it on their phones. The idea was to have a shared community card bill. Get a drink if you wanted to coordinate to it so others could get it. You would
More
think
speed.
that people would
Flood of
just
frost.
grab 3 drinks, but it actually had a surplus of donations versus people
I
actually
condemn you.
I think the card ended up with like $200 at some point. Anyway, some butthole comes along and locks the card account, effectively shutting it down. He said he did it because he wanted to prove how ineffective sharing was or something dumb like that. You
As a
always
good night
have that one
should.
guy who sees other people enjoying something and feels the need to disrupt it. I'm going to prove that people are horrible by being horrible. I used to be able to walk into an airport, book a flight, walk to the gate and get on the plane. I have
Someone
flown
needs
from
assistance.
Desierto, where I live, to LAX where my sister
Back
lives.
at ya.
Countless
Rack and
times
ruin.
in just that fashion.
Eye for an eye.
Not to mention you used to be able to meet people at the gate as they arrived, or go in with them and have a meal before seeing them off. Security took about 30 seconds to get through.
Racket.
All it takes is a few idiots doing stupid illegal crap like spying on people and legislators jump at the chance to restrict them. To be fair, the government used drones for spying first. We used to keep our church doors open 24/7, but then vandals wrecked it so we locked up at night. Then we left it open during the day on Saturdays and vandals wrecked it. So now we keep the place locked up except almost exclusively during banking hours on Sundays and Mondays. My church was having a Halloween plus Saints of the World event and the doors were open. Kids had booths where they told the story about their store, what happened in another
I
part of
condemn
the
you.
world. There were free snacks and
Rack
stuff
and
with
ruin.
the donation box.
Vengeance will be mine.
But he stole all the donation money. My dad spent $50 per semester
Eye for
and
an
my
eye.
great uncle spent $20. I've spent $500. I know inflation bumps up the price every few years, but Jesus have the buttholes in the industry
time to
been
clean
taking us over. A lot of books can be found through torrents, but don't pile up there. I would never tell you to do that. Just sharing general information. Surprisingly, not Wikipedia. It just seems like one of those things where vandalism should have won over the wish to have a public, well-cited, crowdsourced and relying on contributors' knowledge base. I'm very happy about this. Burning Man used to be a really cool, inclusive mini-society. Now it's just a bunch of people with way too much money, isolating themselves from other people in the desert by buying out huge plots of land, and excluding others from their clubhouses. Which is a stark contrast from what Burning Man was fricking supposed to be in the first place. I think this happened with festivals in general. Very materialistic, and look how much fun it looks like I'm having on social media. Our parents had a small summer cabin on a quiet, wooded lake. The water was pristine and ideal for fishing and swimming. The air smelled of fresh pine. Then it caught on, and the lake became overtaxed and ruined with powerboats, polluted with gasoline, oil, and junk tossed into the water, tires, mattresses, washing machines, solvents, etc. Now, the fish are gone, the water stinks,
I condemn you.
and the pine trees have been cut down. Playground equipment, the rolly slides, teeter-totters, the merry-go-rounds, and there was even a park I used to play in as a kid that had an old, retired train car we could go in. The rolly slides apparently pinched too many fingers. The teeter-totters were too hard to get off of, and
Flood
the
of frost.
merry-go-rounds was fun too fast.
You can't run.
As for the train, I'm pretty sure there were people shooting up drugs and or homeless people sleeping in it. Plus graffiti. Now it's gated off and no fun for anyone. I miss merry-go-rounds. There used to be one at a local park. It was my
Rack and
favorite
ruin.
as a kid. Yes, all the kids would spin it too fast and the little ones would go flying in the air, but damn it, we liked it that way.
You can't run.
The sense of community in your neighborhood.
Lights out.
As a kid, second grade-ish, I used to walk over to my friends and went to play in each other's backyards. We learned how to bike together, would explore the woods between guns, play with the older middle schoolers. A lot of paranoia kinda ended it. The DC sniper shooting, fear of kidnappers, it all kinda hit at once. Well, that and cicada season. After that, summer people
ashes.
around here kinda kept to themselves more.
Vengeance will be
This
mine.
does still exist in places. Just moved to a neighborhood from the country and my son is basically
I
reliving
condemn you.
my childhood in the 80s. It makes me so happy.
Eye for an eye.
Makes the week feel like 7 months. Multiple symptoms?
Punishment. Let's rethink this. So your doctor
I
tells
must
you about Trintellix,
As a dutiful maid would.
for adults with a perfect depression and major depressive disorder. Plus, Trintellix had no significant impact on weight in clinical trials.
Trintellix may increase suicidal thoughts and actions. You are worsening depression.
Judgment!
Behavior, thoughts, or feelings. Do
I
not
condemn you.
Tell your doctor about all medicines you take.
Rack and ruin.
Increased risk of
Freeze to the core. Yeah.
fevers or blood pressures.
Take this. Eye for an eye.
Suddenly stopping Trintellix may cause serious side effects. Common side effects include nausea, constipation, some reports
Even on laundry day.
Ask your doctor about Trintellix.
Lights out.
Innovative identity. Access to everything.
Crush.
Customers for your
Vengeance will be mine.
together. Access possibility.
Happy. Movie theaters. Etiquette is absolutely dead. My once greatest joy is dead to me because people are inconsiderate buttholes who feel they can act
You
like
can't
they're
run.
at home and ruin
Take
it all.
this. Power that
I've
ended
incorporated a
Time to clean
projector
up.
and a screen into my man cave and never looked back. eBay used to be this
Rack and
amazing
ruin.
multinational garage sale, filled to the brim with people selling their used stuff. Then people started filling it with garbage, no brand products and drop shipping it to the winning bidders.
Shut up.
Then came the people that started using it as a storefront and charging full retail value for nib items. But now eBay is nothing more than resellers that find it more affordable than developing an actual web store, leaving me scratching my head wondering why people don't just order it from Amazon for $20 less, or walk to a big box store and buy it for the same price without shipping nor a wait. I've permanently checking the use button and the search results have been far better, but there's still people that keep the original box and try to sell it in like new condition for full retail. A smooth experience at the airport. Used to be able to walk through a simple metal detector and that was it. Empty your pockets and you're good. Want to meet your family at the gate? That's fine. Want to walk your loved one to the plane? That's fine too. Now we basically have body cavity searches and have to deal with rude agents who hate their jobs and would rather be anywhere else in the world. It sucks. Don't forget the theft and the fact that they continually fail to find the crap they are supposed to during tests. Hitchhiking. When my parents were growing up in the 60s and 70s, it was normal here, in the middle of a city, to grab a ride from a stranger you might not have known. Someone went around murdering people they picked up and all of a sudden it became illegal to hitchhike. Minor auto
Eye for an
accidents,
eye.
fender benders, when people
Rack and
tried,
ruin.
exchanged insurance info, and got the damage fixed. Now too many people call a personal injury attorney and try to get all the money they deserve for injuries that don't amount to anything. Plus, the insurance companies just total everything
I
because
condemn
of
you.
rampant auto body fraud.
Blood of frost.
Used to be about uploading amateur videos. Old school YouTubers put out quality content as well. Now it's all corporate,
Back at
with
ya.
companies promoting
Rack
their
and ruin.
stuff, and majority of the content being crap. Those fun rock hiding
More
groups on
speed.
Facebook. In the beginning you'd paint a rock
I
and hide it
condemn
for
you.
someone to find. There were so many fun designs. Sometimes you'd find a random way out of state. It
Lights
was thrilling in its own sweet little way. And then people started
Back at ya.
imposing new rules on
Steady
the
as stone.
You can't hide rock litter or
Judgment.
stickers or glue because it might make a squirrel want to swallow one. They jump down the throat of anyone who posted to the group with a
Rack and
good
ruin.
remark. You were not allowed to hide a rock in a business because someone might
Vengeance
think it
will
was
be mine.
solicitation.
You can't
Suddenly,
run.
all the fun animals leave rocks hidden around as you were against the
Eyes
walls.
on me!
And heaven help you
As
if
a
you got
dutiful maid
caught.
would.
Middle-aged women can be mean. Fights began to break out over designs, claiming they were stolen from someone else. But the entire thing turned
Someone
into a
needs
cesspool,
assistance.
he said. He said among ignorant people doing their rocks wrong. Now the groups only consist of a few people who beg others to hide rocks because they don't know why the magic is gone. This sounds just like playing some new game in elementary school. It's fun for several weeks and then
I
new
condemn
people
you.
ruin the game and you have to come up with a new one. There used to be an annual free garage sale near here. People would bring in boxes of
I must
things to
leave
donate. Volunteers would set them out on tables, and everyone could take what they wanted. Then a couple of people pretended to be volunteers and loaded the boxes of donations directly into their own cars. A lot was also stolen from the church that hosted the event, including the stool from their organ. They no longer have a free garage sale.
Rack and ruin.
I belong to a club, local 24-hour. They used to have small white towels, hand-sized, that you could
More
use while
speed.
you worked out. There was a laundry basket you could throw them in
Blood
if you
of
were
frost.
leaving. There weren't great quality. In fact, they were rather rough from being
Punishment.
washed every day, but they were nice to wipe down your treadmill, wipe your face, etc. Last month I entered
I
the gym
condemn
with
you.
a sign stating that they're
Eye
no
for
longer
an eye.
stocking the towels because people are stealing them. WTF. Why would anyone steal these small,
Judgment.
scratchy towels? It's probably the gym rats who forget to put them in the basket and now have a huge collection in their trunks. Pisses me off. Inhaler. My bestie who had asthma used to be able to get inhalers
Freeze to the
without
core.
going through the counter when he was a kid and he needed a desperate. Now they quit selling them over the counter and you need a prescription because Maggie got a drug. I imagine a lot of different kinds
to
of
clean up.
medicines ended up this way. VH1. They used to have great shows like Behind the Music, pop-up video and classic albums. Plus they made some really good original movies as well. Then literally overnight they turned into E, but only stupider if that's even possible. We used to have a small state park where I live. It was a little hole in the ground in the middle of farm country. There was a waterfall, tons of crazy rock formations and climbing walls, as well as rare plants and trees as far as the eye can see. It was beautiful. Then stoners and hippies took over the place, spray painted on all of the rock formations, and moved any rocks and boulders that could be to spell a big 4-20 in the place's gazing field. Baggies and cans litter the waterfall to the point where the entire waterfall looks like a fountain.
Rack and ruin.
You can't
I
step 2
condemn
feet in
you.
any direction without seeing can, bottle, pipe, or nut. It's really sad. The
You
last
can't run.
time I went, my friends and I left in tents.
Back off.
It was devastating. I don't know if the park is still there or if anyone around there is on Reddit, but I know the Arteries subreddit is doing a stoner initiative to clean up smoke spots.
Rack and ruin.
Maybe posting them there where it is. Separate
Blood
or
of
throw away
frost.
accounts. Someone to go and tidy it up a bit.
Punishment.
Back in
Judgment.
London, Turkey, when you were drunk and thought you couldn't make it back home, you'd call 155.
Take
police
this to
and
ashes.
tell them who you were
Eye
and
for
your
an eye.
whereabouts. They had to send a cop to pick you up from where you were and give you a lift to your home, so you wouldn't
Rack
be
and
caught
ruin.
or get robbed or whatever. Islamists came in power and ruined everything
Steady
for
as
the rest of the country. Similarly, my dad tells me stories about how when he was my age he'd flag a policeman down when he was staggering home drunk and they'd drive him
Someone
to the
needs-
top of the hill near his house. It was a pain to turn around any further, so he'd get home safe. His buddies did the same. Everyone knew the cops and the cops knew them. This was a small town in the US in the early 70s. Try to do that now.
Vengeance will be mine.
Pensions. Retirement and having a career with a company for more than 10 years. Stupid boomers. Greedy corporate buttholes and crappy government
condemn
rules
you.
all that for everyone. In Australia, there were a series of giant Indian lakes in the desert, collectively known as the 90 lakes. Beautiful,
Lights
natural, diverse ecosystems, fun people activities, and genuinely wondrous. Then the Australian government sold farm up river to water-intensive overseas cotton farms and didn't restrict their water use. The river started
Eye for an
flowing
eye.
in reverse. Menindee lakes almost never
More
fill
speed.
anymore. Cotton and rice farming should never have happened in Australia, and it is criminal how it has been allowed to happen.
Rack and ruin.
Affordable healthcare insurance. I now pay $700 after tax monthly premium for a third-tier healthcare plan that I try my best not
Freeze
use
to the
due
core.
cost of payments. And I am very concerned about what the coverage will cost in 2009.
Power that ended high shot.
Don't
I must
forget
leave
the
no stone
$6,000
unturned.
deductible.
You can't run.
Wine
Bad
tasting.
punishment.
It used to be that if you were planning a nice dinner or picking up wine for holiday meals, or for whatever
I condemn
reason,
you.
would go to the winery and they would suggest pairings for you.
As a
You
dutiful
would
maid
taste a
would.
few samples and then buy the bottle. You want it, or you would politely tell them you are going to try a different wine.
Rack and ruin.
The word got out
Blood
that
of
wine
frost.
tasting is free and every
You can't
Briton
run.
who wanted to get drunk for free showed up. But nowadays every winery in
Lights
California charges for tastings, and instead of having a nice experience, you have to fight yuppies and their dads.
I condemn you.
Bachelorette parties screaming and booing, etc. for space at the bar. I had a very different experience when visiting in-laws in Germany. The winemakers were very quick to open any bottle I was interested in and pour a very generous tasting glass. I know nothing about wine and all the bottles were gifts, and he knew that.
Eyes on
But he
me.
was still adamant that he wanted me to taste his wine. It was almost a pride for him. Fandoms. Used to be. There could be big fandoms without fights and ships were just for fun and no one trying to harass people into making them canon. I don't care if my ship doesn't become canon. I will fricking ship it anyways.
Rack and ruin. I condemn you. You can't run. Ha! Ha! Freeze to the core. Judgment. Shiver. You can't run.
Thank you for agreeing to meet with me.
Eye for an eye. More speed.
More civilized way of doing it.
Touche. Judgment.
Private bond we call Capitan. So,
I condemn you.
and if you value my friendship as highly as you should, wait, Senor Martelli, do not speak my name.
Blood of frost. Yeah! I must, as a good knight should.
I'm sure it will be worth your while.
People used to read the articles and be
Lights
informed. Now
You
I
can't
feel
run.
like people skip to the comments to get the gist of what was actually written said. So whoever invented the comments section ruined Reddit. A lot of articles are crap to read now. There are a lot of stuff added just to increase
Eye for
average
an eye.
time the user spends on the
Judgment.
site. The comfort of knowing that your children were safe from polio and smallpox and measles because people vaccinated their kids. Because of course people
More
vaccinated their
speed.
kids because dumb. Decades
I
of
condemn
science
you.
brought low by a playboy
You can't
lady.
run.
Give it a minute to let that really
Steady
sink
it.
in.
Shiver.
Being a kid, time
Vengeance
was you
will
could
be
roam
mine.
around your neighborhood, ride your bike to a nearby park, explore the
Eye for an
behind
eye.
your house, or whatever. On a typical summer day, you'll get kicked out of your house and told to come home when the street lights came on. You had freedom to roam and explore and create and play. And you used to get beat up by bullies and chased by stray dogs
Take
and people
this!
down
Power
and
that
cut your
ended life.
throat.
Leave it
But
up.
you were free to explore and learn and figure crap out on your own. And it was awesome. Now, we have the norm. At least in the US, that children ought to be under adult supervision every minute of every day. We take them from one supervised
Judgment.
activity to the next, handing them off like some kind of nuclear code briefcase. Parents are afraid to leave their kid in the car while they run into the store for a few minutes
Steady
because
as
someone
stone.
might call the police on them. They couldn't have been charged with a crime. This is ludicrous to me, all things being equal. It's one thing to leave your kid sat in the car reading a book or playing a game on his tablet when weather is a concern. That would be neglect or abuse if it's too hot. For
As a
instance,
dutiful maid
but
would.
if it's more shaded, it's a cool 65 M and you're just picking up grandma's prescription real quick. I just don't understand. I don't get helicopter parenting and how it came to be normal. To the point parents can be charged with actual crimes for doing nothing more than letting their kid alone for a few minutes. It's just baffling to me. My hometown turned a recently vacant bus depot into a street art center. The walls were open to be painted on. You could do events there, and it was open normal park hours, dusk till dawn usually. Within the first month or so of being open, it was covered with all sorts of art. Then towards the end of the summer during the first year, some kids beat the security guard with their skateboards. Been closed since as far as I know. I moved away a few years ago. Facebook. I'm not saying it was amazing, but it was so different my freshman year of college. It was fun to upload photos and connect with people you met in class, etc. Now there are a ton of middle-aged people with their political opinions, on both sides, and acting like they're better than everyone who is mourning Mac Miller, while you're crying over this celebrity. I'm thinking of the 3 veterans who commit suicide every day. Repost to show you care. Just really sick of all of my aunts and uncles on Facebook with their stupid opinions. ETA. Obviously I can unfriend those people, and I have. I'm just saying the whole vibe of the site is different. Maybe it's just me getting old, but I'll take first day of school pictures over politics and buy my MLM crap any day. Driving. Now there's too many dang people on the road, most of whom do not need to be licensed to drive, that cannot use common sense, move along, follow traffic, and understand that they are not the only vehicle trying to get somewhere. No one drives in New York City. There's too much traffic. Reddit. People are stupid, and they are still stupid on Reddit. I still see so much of that old pat yourselves on the back, don't we know better than the proles attitude here. Like the average user is some educated techie, as if this is 2006 and Reddit is some underground site. Acting like the user base is anything more than a hive of idiots is ridiculous at this point. Reddit is currently the 15th most trafficked site in the world. That's incredible. Mainstream popularity, and it brings in everyone. People who use this site aren't smart or interesting or unusual for doing it. If they ever were getting advice from Reddit, doubt its value. It probably comes from someone stupid. How about Reddit's opinions? Likely to be a rational groupthink with a healthy dose of corporate foreign astroturfing. Speaking of astroturfing, the profit influence potential of a website this popular is immense, and everyone knows it. Reddit got so upset about not being able to monetize their popularity as well as they wanted that they pushed a terrible redesign exclusively to pack the site full of ads and ban various controversial groups to sanitize the site for advertisers. They're turning this site into Facebook with messaging, profiles and everything, solely to pander to those users and bring in advertising dollars. And the sad part is it's going to work because that's been proven to be extremely lucrative. And because the new Reddit is populated by average users who live for that format. This site is near ruined. When I first became aware of it 11 years ago, it was small, discussion was good. Most of the users were there to escape from the burgeoning popular sites which were full of the mass-marketed drivel that now pervades Reddit. Because it has now itself been engulfed by the Facebook machine. We're going to need a new alternative for a few years before the exact same thing happens, as it always does to something small but interesting that gets popular and attracts the attention of interest groups and average internet users. And then BSP. To be fair, this complaint basically goes for the entire internet. You're right. Your comment has enlightened me and I now assume based on this lesson that you're an idiot too. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video.
In today's hot news, we will be taking a look into number 1, the moon chase.
Yeah, because I don't see the context to it. Okay, there it is. There it is. There it is. There it is.
Yeah, I condemn you.
Where's the initial? Where's the...
Flood of frost.
Now we have all the buttons on it.
Back at ya.
Another one. Another one. Holy shit. That's like a whole 40 minutes of nonsense.
Rack and ruin. You can't run.
Melina banning of your multiple channels.
Eye for an eye. I must leave no.
You're not gonna ban me as yet. Stop. 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 You're not gonna ban me as yet.
I condemn you. Shiver. Judgment.
You're not banning the right person.
Rack and ruin.
Against COS.
Eye for an eye.
If you're moderator, you can.
Freeze to the core. You can't run. Eyes on me. Leave it up. Someone needs assistance. You can't run.
And she constantly has people fucking
Lights out. Yeah.
Do I have to give my take first? I want all of those
I condemn you.
Guys.
Flood of frost. What a nuisance. You can't run.
This is me.
It's a good night show.
Okay. And this is my friend Carl. Okay. He has his viewers. I have my viewers. But together, with a shared viewer pool. Okay.
Eye for an eye.
And me and Charles, we
Rack
play
and
games
ruin.
together sometimes.
Judgment.
Okay. And then, I tell my chat, yo guys, you can roast me on this, this, and that. But something that I don't want to get into is this.
Eye for an eye.
Very...
Go and at the doorway.
You can't run.
Let your knights try to land a blow against me.
I condemn you.
Those silly men.
This thing right here, right? And then the person makes, oh, it's just a joke, dude, but they maliciously target me on that one thing that I don't like. That I don't like it. Even though I'm telling you, hey guys, I'm a weak to that comment or this or that, and I don't like when you do it. That person hammers at it. Oh, bing, 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 and they hammer at it over and over again. It's fucking annoying. It is absolute trash, dude. Right? And then, whenever you go to on somebody else's stream, they're gonna go back to it and spam it in the chat, dude. Because they're in the same circle. If the other person has a problem with that, they can just unban him. What about this? I'm not part of it, so who gives a fuck? Dude, Yeah, what about it? Stop trying like year-old clips of other shit that's unrelated.
Shiver!
Yeah! For me, I don't give a fuck.
Back at ya!
Eye
for an eye.
They can, so I know you don't want me to tell you.
Leave it all to me.
Live like a bitch, you gonna die like a bitch. You're gonna sit in there talking a bunch
Rack
of shit
and ruin.
in chat all day long and then expect for nothing to happen with it.
You know what? I'm gonna go further than that. You know, I'm just gonna fucking say it, dude. I'm just gonna say it. People make multiple threads on Reddit.
Freeze to the core.
So they cancel each other. So they get other streamers banned based on how their communities are acting, and they say the community is a reflection of the streamer, right?
Rack and
all
ruin.
blame the whole commenters and chatters on the streamer. And as soon as the streamer bans somebody and legitimately moderates for this to stop happening, oh my god, they're actually banning people. That's just not Zmod, not Zmod, not Zmod. Fuck off, dude. Fuck off, you dumb fuck.
I condemn you.
What a stupid mentality. What a dumb fucking mentality. Fuck you, dude. You don't,
Steady as stone.
You don't get to hold me accountable for everything. And whenever I try to change things, just say, oh, that's unfair, that's unfair. No, dude.
Eye for an eye.
Dude.
That's what fucking happens. You fuck with somebody over and over.
Judgment.
And they get mad over and over and over. That's what happens. The thing is with cross-banning and everything
You can't run.
I think it's completely fine. Anybody that I give mod to in my channel can cross-ban people if they feel that person made them uncomfortable. I think that's totally fine.
Rack and ruin. Eye for an eye.
And you know for a fact and say, hey, can you ban me in mixed chat? This dumb bitch Madalena banned me there. Jesus
Vengeance
Christ.
will be
I
mine.
did nothing but say, hey, bitch, get out of the kitchen for once. I can enjoy the content. Like, holy shit, man.
Have no accountability, especially whenever they're afflicted.
Leave it.
I don't like that at all. I'm totally okay with the cross-ban. That's the way that I feel about it. That's why I give them mods, so they can ban people if that person makes them feel uncomfortable or unhappy. You know what I say?
Yeah. Shiver. I condemn you. Back at ya.
There is a habit with Twitch chat where you try to fucking mathematically find the most like scathing take that you can have. Literally watch us for hours and hours and hours a day.
I condemn you.
Figure out what like the insecurities that
You
might
can't
work,
run.
like
Back
that
at ya.
might be as penetrating as possible, and you fucking drop it in the chat, and then you drop it with the expectation that the streamer is gonna notice, and then as soon as the streamer fucking notices,
More
you
speed,
take back and
touche.
you're like, oh, what the fuck, dude? Why can't you lighten up, dude? Like, why can't you lighten up and take the fucking abuse, dude? You fucking stupid idiot.
Yeah.
Like, there is a habit with Twitch chat where you try to
Steady as stone.
You know what, chat? That's what happened with Greek. That's what happened with Greek. Actually, it's so sad, but people got upset that when he came back, they couldn't use their old insults, right? To mask their own insecurities. They couldn't say that he was a bad fucking one, right? So they started getting mad that he did better.
Flood of frost.
Yep. Believe it or not,
Rack
people
and
were
ruin.
actually malding
Eye
that
for
they
an
couldn't
eye.
use their old insults that were easy and free to hit at them, right? So they got mad.
Yeah, like that might
Hey, that is the most loser mentality you'll ever find, dude.
be as
At least, no more work.
Penetrating as possible, and you fucking drop it in the chat, and then you drop it with the expectation that the streamer is gonna notice.
Yeah, they're gonna
and
get
then
mad.
as soon as the streamer fucking notices and takes action, you're like,
What?
oh, what the fuck, dude?
Yeah.
Why can't you lighten up, dude?
Yeah,
Exactly.
Like, why can't you lighten up and take the fucking abuse, dude? You fucking stupid idiot.
Exactly, bro. Like, fucking exactly. Like, is somebody sitting in there talking shit over and over and over, and then they finally get banned for it, and they're like, what? Well, I was just bantering whenever they're sitting there.
Guys, I don't say anything, dude. I'm just gonna play this, and this kind of resumes the whole scenario. That's actually ancient.
Degrading her and telling her that what she's the main person doing it, and she constantly has people fucking degrading her and telling her that what she's doing isn't legitimate. Yeah, I'm sorry, but if you're being delegitimized by thousands of people every single fucking day, and you're finally gonna say stop, you're finally gonna say stop. You're finally gonna say fuck you. I don't want to hear this. There's nothing wrong with her doing this.
A few minutes ago, I interact more with my instructors than I did at community college. They've helped push me to do my best. I'm actually doing a career that I...
She should not have to be a punching bag.
Yeah, but
Eye
then you go to the
I
channel,
condemn you.
right? And this thing happens if you do it all over again. But even before that even happens,
More
we'll
speed.
say, I got banned
Yeah.
unjustifiably on Reddit, on Twitter, and it's a cycle, dude. It's just fucking bullshit.
I always tell anybody else, if somebody makes you feel uncomfortable on your stream, and if it's really bad to you, you can ban them in my stream. That's what I tell. Because in real life, if somebody harassed one of my friends, I would not allow that person to be my friend.
Eyes on
Guys,
me! Vengeance will be mine.
People lose spend $20,000 at joining chat. How about
As a dutiful maid woman.
Yeah, bitch. This guy just told you, asshole. This guy just... How about get a skill, bitch? How about that? Yes, get up.
It's the main person doing
Holy
it,
shit,
and
dude.
she
Leave it
Absolutely, hold on. Okay, anything else?
they're doing like fucking research on your subreddit about it. Like, what's gonna make
Eye for an eye.
mad? What's gonna really get him
You can't
mad?
run.
Oh, this one? Okay, oh man, I got banned for it? Oh, bro. Streamers are so sensitive nowadays. And then meanwhile, you call them out in chat and they leave. And they fucking... leave. What happened? I'll show you guys real quick.
Lights out. I must leave no stone.
Interesting.
I condemn you. Eye for an eye. Judgment.
Coaches of Reddit. What is your favorite My Kid Should Be Playing story? When I was in Little
Rack
League,
and
I
ruin.
was talking to an umpire
Freeze to
who'd
the
been
core.
doing it for 25 years. He said he's coached everything from professional games to college ball, and he's
I
never
can-
had to throw a coach out of a game
Rack and ruin.
until he started entering Little League. I had
Steady
read
as
that in the
stone.
pros. How seldom do the coaches get tossed for real reasons. Most of the time they ask to be tossed or moral and I volunteered to coach in the city centre, Louis Kids in football when I was in law school. It
I
was a
condemn you.
YMCA-based team for 3rd, 6th graders, so the goal was really just to have fun and occupy the kids. I had it started by now, but everyone got to it. Naturally, there were
Rack and
plenty of
ruin.
kids in the general and football who just showed up for free babysitting. One day, before practice, a dad I had never met comes up to me and says, "Yo coach, listen man, you know you didn't have to play my kid Andre, right?" I asked him who
condemn
his
you.
kid was, and then told him that he was just going to play with the kids anyways. The dad looks me in the eye and goes, "No, coach, you just look at him." I turn to look, and while one of my assistants is lining up the offense, Andre, a supposed wide receiver, is lying face down in the grass with his arms and legs spread out like a starfish. Andre's dad and I proceed to watch as the ball is snapped, and Andre just doesn't bother to move. But the cornerback guarding Andre just sat down next to him and watched the rest of the play. ESPN 30 for 30, the Andre Johnson story.
Steady as stone.
More like, why won't you let my kid embarrass and hurt himself? I coached a town league baseball team of 11 and 12-year-olds. The league was really big on safeties for pitchers. 50 pitch or 3 inning max. No curveballs. Runners can't lead off, etc. I got a kid who had just moved to town, and his dad talked to me non-stop on how this kid was the greatest pitcher ever. The problem is the kid had the worst pitching mechanics of all time. To get around the no curveball rule, the dad apparently came up with this stupid pitching motion where he would have his son lean 45 degrees off center with his arm fully extended with his elbow locked and chop down when he pitched. If you know baseball, you can see there are about 5 things wrong with this. Not only is the motion impossible to throw strikes from, but you are just begging to frick up your son's shoulder by teaching him to throw that way. I offered to teach him the correct way to throw, and told them both that if he went back to the shoulder destroyer pitch he wouldn't get another chance at being on the mound. Well, a few weeks later I'll let him pitch. First batter goes fine. First pitch of the second batter, back to the stupid motion. I walk out to the mound and remind him not to do it. Second pitch, same stupid motion. Third pitch, he hits the batter. I pull him and his dad flips out, takes all of his equipment out of the dugout and tells me they quit. This one is really freaking horrible. He basically taught his son to ignore coaching staff, embarrassed him in front of teammates and their families, and is setting his kid up for a lifetime of injuries because he thinks he knows better.
Lights out.
I used to coach hockey and watched many a minor hockey game as both a coach and a parent. Worst thing I ever saw. Much in the same vein as the other, he should not be playing stories with this. Minor hockey week game. Parent from opposing team had one foot on a spectator bench and the other on the dasher so he could get over the glass, and he yelled at one of their players something along the lines of, "If you're not going to play, then get off the ice." I felt so bad for whoever the kid was and hoped, in some ways, it wasn't his, because that ride home would have been terrible for the kid. I would have told him he couldn't do that. Then if he did it again, have him removed from the arena if I was the scorekeeper for that game. Coached a U10 girls soccer team. The skill and maturity gap between each of the girls was astounding. Some of the kids were legitimately good players. The rest were less so. I struggled to find playing time for one of my players. Not because I didn't sub her in enough, but because she would literally just wander off the field and start playing in the dirt. Like, in the middle of a game. It'd have to count how many players I had because sometimes she'd just wander away. It is more of a that kid shouldn't be playing story than a my kid should be playing story. But I once had a dad approach me and try to bribe me $50 to prevent a certain kid from playing in our upcoming flag football game. These were 6-year-old kids. The kid did make a costly mistake in the previous game, but the fact that this random dad was willing to pay me to bench the kid was mind-blowing. I will make him an offer he can't refuse. When my dad coached my little league team, we had a dad that loudly, in front of the whole team, kept demanding his son play catcher. My dad relented one day, even though we had a really good catcher, because it's just little league. No big deal. In one inning, the kid had 3 passed balls. Also, on one of the times he caught the ball, someone stole home. You can't start stealing until the ball is caught. I don't really have an explanation to how that happened. He just basically didn't tag him. The dad's response was to blame the equipment provided. He then bought his kid his own set of catching equipment and demanded that the superior equipment. His son was now better. My dad tried to let him catch a game, and on the first stolen base he promptly threw the ball into the pitcher's mound. My dad was always nice and encouraging to the kid, but man, just don't set your kid up to fail like that. 3 passed balls isn't that bad for little league, unless we're talking travel ball. Why doesn't my kid do more playing? Because he plays outfield and does nothing but pick flowers and cry. I don't think he wants to be here. I'm not a coach, but I've seen some crap from being in little league. My 7th grade football coach's son was a big boy and played O-line, but he wanted to score touchdowns. So his dad's offensive strategy was to put all the big linemen, including his son, in a wishbone formation and then put the little guys on the O-line to block for them. He called it the beef backfield. We dominated that season, and I learned how to chop block. Oh yeah, at that age a big kid with momentum is unstoppable. In Pop Warner football, each player must play a minimum of 10 plays per game. I had the assistant coaching job of making sure that happened and documenting it. What made it hard was parents over my shoulder. They knew that if I told the coach a kid has to go in, he'd goes in. So I heard my kid should be playing the entire game. As an assistant coach on my son's football team, I was often the chosen one to handle situations. I had one parent that showed up for only one of his son's games complain that he wasn't getting enough playing time. I professionally advised him that his son as well as the other kids all got playing time, and his son would get more time on the field if he showed up to practice on time and not 30 minutes late. I also advised the father that his son was not putting forth his best effort and his playing time is limited to reduce him getting hurt as well as his teammates. And that's when it kind of went to crap. This father then became irate and said, "Well, I bet your funkin' son plays all the time, coach." Calmly I replied, "Actually, my son also gets very limited playing time because he, like your son, is not applying himself on the field." Threw a bit of shade ending the conversation, which you would have noticed if you attended his games. He stomped away. His mother picked him up and was taking her son to practices and games after that. My son started applying himself towards the end and got a bit more playing time. The son of the father who whined turned it up big time after that and made first string. Good to see a happy ending in this one. Good for the kid, making first string. In 4th grade I begged my parents enroll me in soccer little league because my brother always played and it looked fun. Only problem was I'd never kicked a ball in my life and had zero skill knowledge of how to play team sports. Needless to say, I sucked big time. As in, wouldn't move on the field unless the coach called from the sidelines, move forward, take the ball from them, shoot it in, etc. I was clueless, non-competitive, and put on a very cringe-worthy show.
If you ever want to trade
At this point I didn't want to show up to games practices anymore because this was obviously not my jam. But my parents encouraged me to stick it out. Near the end of every season, an all-star league was put together by selecting all of the top players from each team, basically to put talent against talent for an exciting game. The coach posted the list of members that made the cut for the all-star team and I was very relieved when I didn't see mine. I was finally free. My dad, however, had something to say about this. I was so focused on not seeing my name on the list that I didn't realize that I was the only person from my team that didn't make the cut. I know his heart was in the right place, but he was so focused on protecting my feelings. He must have thought I felt betrayed being the odd man out, that he went to the coach, had some strong words, and excitedly came back to tell me that I had made the all-star team. Now 10-year-olds are not stupid. I knew that the coach and my entire team didn't actually want me on the team. I sucked and I knew it. I didn't earn my place on the team, and that felt worse than being cut from the team ever could. So I suffered through an extra week of practice and spent almost all of the final game on the bench. I still have the giant all-star trophy I got at the end of it all. It serves as a reminder that kids know more than you think and they are able to tell when they actually do a good job that they can feel proud of versus a hollow accomplishment that is more or less given to them with no qualifications or effort.
What's the Wi-Fi password? Eye for an eye.
It's easy to be unsafe.
Mom, what's the 401k number?
Now it's easy to help protect yourself.
I'll catch up.
Opt in to cyber safety at norton.com/cybersafety.
Punishment! As a dutiful maid would.
They're on a mission to see every sandwich from a boring bag of chips. Sandwiches with your cheese.
I must leave no stone unturned.
Cheese and snack. Level up your lunch.
Coached a 9 and 10 year Little League baseball team to get volunteer hours in high school. I wanted the kids to have fun, but I also wanted to win, so we had a pretty standard position pitching rotation. We were playing against the team the league's commissioner coached and he approached us. Tell us that one of the mothers thought we weren't being fair with our pitching rotation. We immediately knew whose mother it was. The only mother to give us complaints. A mother to arguably the worst ball player I've ever seen. I get it, he's 9 years old, with a 0.00 batting average, and an arm like a wet spaghetti noodle is something special even for Little League. Myself and my good buddy, also assistant coach, made a call to send her kid into the bullpen to get warmed up to pitch. We knew the kid wouldn't throw a single strike. The mom knew. We even let the umpires and the other team's coach know. But we started in anyways. The first half inning took about 30 minutes. He walked in 7-ish runs, whatever the single inning mercy rule was at the time. And that was that. Never heard a complaint from that parent again. Poor kid having to endure that because of his mother. Had a dad come up and say exactly that. All I had to do was point. I'm sorry, sir. She actually would be playing if she was here, but that's your daughter over there throwing her sweatshirt up and getting it stuck in the basketball hoop instead of focusing on the game. It was because she didn't want to be there. I had a parent angrily confront me because her daughter wasn't getting any time in a soccer game. I explained to her that her daughter was one of 2 goalies, and she was going to play the second half. She turned and walked away without saying a word. Her tone warranted a thank you, if not an apology. Soccer parents are the worst humans. Source: played soccer for 12 years. Referee for 2 years.
Eye for an eye.
I'm a volunteer coach for youth basketball, and I get a ton of parents coming up to me asking to play their kids more. I always pay everyone and try to make sure that everyone plays meaningful minutes. But a lot of the times it's the player who doesn't want to play all that much. Once when I was coaching little kids, 6-8-year-olds, I had brothers on my team. The younger brother, the 6-year-old, was probably the best player on the team for the simple fact that he was coordinated enough to be able to dribble without looking at the ball. The older brother, 7 I think, absolutely hated basketball. I've never met a kid who hated basketball more in my entire life. He was afraid of the ball, afraid of any contact, and would usually cry during any practice if he got caught. With younger kids it's important that you don't push them too hard. You want them to enjoy the sport first and become good later. So I would always ask him during games if he wanted to play. He would always refuse, so I would make him my assistant coach to try to keep him engaged during games. One day after practice his mom came up and asked me to play her older son. Let's call him Luke. Next game, even if he refused to go in, she was afraid that Luke was becoming jealous of his younger brother and thought he needed some tough love. So the next game I told Luke that he was going to have to play. He looked at me like I told him I murdered Santa. Sometime in the middle of the first half I called a timeout and turned to Luke and said, "Alright buddy, it's time. Don't be nervous. Just go out there and have fun. You're going to do great." The rest of his teammates, brother especially, were encouraging him to go out there. We even broke the huddle by saying, "Luke." The rest of the team went out to the court and he just stood there motionlessness and looked up. So I leaned down and told him that it was going to be great fun. He slowly walked onto the court, a good dozen feet away from any of the other players, and just watched while the game started. The other team turned the ball over, which is essentially all basketball is at that age, and a teammate passed the ball to Luke yelling, "Luke catch." Luke stood there as the ball came towards him, let it hit him in the face, and fell down like he was shot by a sniper. I rushed on the court to see if he was okay, and by the time I got there I noticed he peed his pants and was crying. The ref stopped the game and his parents came onto the court to help him off and hide the fact that he had peed. Luke never showed up to practice again. Well, I am not a coach, but when I was a kid there was this father that really believed in his kid, but didn't really get the attention the father thought he deserved. So what did this dude do? He went on to be the assistant coach, and always made sure his kid got most playing time and got to take all the free kicks and penalties. The kid became an above average football. We'd sock a few Americans, player but never made it outside state. Not a coach, but a wrestler's older sister, so I've been around the mat enough to know what's up. My brother's team is based in a small town, like population 2,000 plus small, so you know we don't have a lot of funding. Enter one of the richest guys in town. It's not that hard to gain that title here. But this guy owned 3 convenience stores in the area and very friendly to everyone, so he was well known. He and his family were also the only Indian family within a 30-mile radius, so they stuck out like a sore thumb. Can't miss the guy. Let's call him Singh, not his real name. Anyway, I guess Singh wanted his son to be the typical all-American kid, so he wanted him to be in the first lineup for the team rather than a backup. When he didn't get that, he proceeded to bribe the coaches by paying for all of the uniforms and their transportation to tournaments. Since it technically wasn't a bribe and there were no other words exchanged about the matter, Singh's son was on the lineup. The thing is, Singh's son was a rude tubby little crap that would only be put on the mat if kids were in his weight class, which was rarely, but it still made some people pee off. TM. Rich Indian guy bribes coaches with paid uniforms so his son could be on the line.
Eye for an eye.
That's the thing about wrestling.
Rack and ruin.
There is no hiding how bad or good a kid is, and there are eliminations to start at your weight. Win and you start, lose and you don't. Wrestling parents may scream and holler at matches, but there is no questioning the starting lineup.
Lights out.
I once dated a girl whose mom was the epitome of crazy soccer mom. Her son was a fairly good soccer player who was a freshman in high school. My brother just happened to be the varsity soccer coach of that school. This mom would literally call me daily to ask if my brother, the coach, had made decisions if he would play varsity or not. It got so bad one day she asked if I wanted to go get dinner with her and talk about what needs to be done to get her son on varsity. If she was sexy it might have been cool, but I just ended up telling her that I'm not the coach and I don't have any say on who plays or not. The girl you were dating was probably mortified. I wasn't his coach but his teammate in baseball. Basically every weekend during the summer, we had a tournament at some high school field in the area. On the final game one weekend, our best pitcher was expecting to start in the final game, except when that game came, he was on the bench. He immediately yelled what when he saw the lineup and began complaining loudly so the coach could hear him. Then he ran up to the bleachers to tell his dad he wasn't starting in front of all the parents. When he came back to the dugout, he was full on bawling his eyes out. The entire game he was just sulking with the occasional tear by himself. This is something you'd expect from maybe an 8-year-old. But no, we were about to be juniors in high school. It was funny as heck, honestly. I was coaching my 6-year-old's baseball game. Well, it started to sprinkle and I saw lightning a little ways off. I pulled my kids from the field. The other coach came out screaming that they still want to play. I told them I saw lightning and I am not endangering these kids. The parents from the other team started screaming at me, let them play. The other coach was fine with them playing because the president of the league's team was still playing on the other field. About 5 minutes into the argument it started pouring down rain so the game got called anyway, but parents are stupid. I was a referee and have had to make the call for 16 concurrent games to be cancelled for lightning. That should not have been my responsibility as a 15-year-old, but the referee commissioner was AWOL. He got replaced the following year, thankfully. Not a coach, but when I was young my stepmother was often a total pain in the butt at my various sporting events. She's a pretty big sports fan and very competitive. I was never a superstar, but I tried my best. Anyway, during a summer league softball game we were doing pretty badly, and the coach decided to give me a shot at pitching, which was something dear to my heart. As soon as he indicated that I was to take the mound, my stepmother began heckling him and me, and shouted through the entire inning that putting me in as pitcher was a stupid decision. I didn't do badly, but I probably would have done much better if I didn't have tears running down my face the whole time. Well crap, I am allowed. Competitive stepmom, and this hurt to read. I hope I have never made my kids feel that way. I can honestly say I have never done anything like you described, but I can cheer pretty loudly and obnoxiously for them. During cross country, my daughter said she could hear me cheer, yell, everywhere on the course. Sorry she did that to you. That was terrible. Not exactly what you're asking for, but in kindergarten I signed up for baseball. They put me on first base and in about 30 seconds I started drawing in the sand. I drew so much and never even paid attention. I just waited to be up to bat the whole time, and if I ever got out somehow, I would always deny it and try to run away to the first base. I didn't know any baseball rules, and if my coach told me to get out, I would, but I would cry. My dad ended up apologizing to the coach after every game and giving the coach permission to sit me out. I played catcher in T-ball. I was that bad. There were 2-3 times I had to actually try to throw the ball to the coach on the pitcher's mound. Once I threw it and hit the batter as hard as I could in the back of the helmet. As I got a little bit older and was into softball, I wound up in left field because I was the only girl on the team able to send the ball back to first. I have managed Little League Baseball for 10 years, 15-16 seasons. Early in my career I learned that parents will push you if you don't set expectations right from the start. So I would send out a series of emails to parents and follow up with the players at practice to share my vision for the team and the season. I had 3 rules that would be reinforced most every practice and game. 1. Give your best effort every time. 2. Treat your teammates, coaches, officials, and the other team with respect and good sportsmanship. And 3. Every player will play every position at some point in the season. Things went pretty smoothly, no issues with players or parents, until year 9. One player, who I had specifically requested be on my team because I knew he was having a hard time at home and school due to a parent's illness and because he would probably not do very well under the dominating style of the other team's coaches, just didn't get the whole 3 rules above and wanted to be treated like a special little snowflake. If he didn't get his way, he would sulk and leave the field, and he was a mediocre player at best, no star by any stretch. So long story short, after several incidents and multiple discussions with the player, parent, my coaches, and league officials, this player gets himself kicked off the team right before the playoffs start for repeatedly failing to follow the team rules. Not my preference, but he had many chances and his behavior was quite negative to the team dynamic. So about 2 weeks later, the parent contacts me and wants to know if her child made the all-star team. I knew right from that the player inherited his self-centered foolishness from his mother. Obligatory, not a coach but a player. Growing up I was always less than athletic. In 3rd grade soccer when the coach asked me my favorite position I said son. I legitimately thought standing on the sidelines drinking Gatorade was a position. This trend continued on through 7th grade, where there was one particular game where I wasn't playing. My dad came storming across the field at halftime and started yelling at the coach in front of me and all my teammates. I knew I sucked but it didn't bother me too much. I was mortified and ultimately my dad said, let's go, and like Slim we're leaving, and I said no and stayed. As I type this I imagine that was pretty embarrassing for my dad too.
I must leave no stone unturned. I condemn you. Lights out. To ashes. Flood of frost. Eye for an eye. You can't run. Rack and ruin! Steady as stone.
Not a coach, and this doesn't even involve a parent, but it's basically the same. Our senior year of high school, our varsity soccer team was pretty good for our county and ended up going to our regional finals. Our county had a rule though that if you were a senior on a team that didn't have enough players to do cuts, then you automatically made varsity. Not a rule that I disagree with, but we had one kid on our team who was only on varsity because of this rule. To his credit, he had played all 4 years and always tried his best. He just wasn't very good. He was being 3/4 through the season. Half the time of a pretty important game, the kid is visibly frustrated and not really paying attention. Coach asks him if he has somewhere he wants to be. Kid looks him dead in the eye and says, "I want to be out here," while pointing to the field. I'll never forget the deadpan look on our coach's face as he emotionlessly said, "Well, you have to learn that." Holy crap. I'm shocked we all held it together at that. Was it a bit harsh? Maybe. The kid did everything he could for 4 years to earn that spot, but just couldn't. At the same time, this wasn't a recreational league for fun or practice. I'm a firm believer that once you get to high school level, you play your best players and you play to win each game, even if that means hurt feelings. Still, Coach Potts, you're cold-blooded. I'm not a coach, but I have a ridiculous story about a coach from when I played fricking Little League. This dude was serious. We were all 7-8 years old, so it was generally a very light-hearted league, but not for him. Oh no. He would scream at his players when they made errors, and loudly berate his own son after games if he didn't perform to his standards. But one day, he went over the line. His team was in the field, and one of our better players had just stepped up to bat. This kid had, earlier in the game, had hit a 1 RBI triple or something, and was having a really good day. So what does Super Coach decide to do? Orders his pitcher to intentionally walk the kid. I crap you not. In a children's little league game that absolutely no one cares about, this man was intentionally walking a kid to prevent him from scoring. The boost in the stands were deafening. Well, as deafening as a crowd of like 30 can be. As the father of the kid who was being walked actually stomped out onto the field, took his son and drove home while cursing out the coach. It was freaking ridiculous. We ended up winning the game anyway. This isn't so much of a my kid should play, but rather a this is what you're doing wrong story. YMCA soccer, 3-4-year-olds. At this stage, the idea is to just get them outside running around, making friends, having fun, taking them off their parents' hands for an hour. We call it beehive ball as there are simply 40, or however many kids running around chasing the ball. Half time comes around and a father approaches me and says, "Coach, I see what the problem is." At this point I didn't realize there was a problem, so I was curious. What would the problem be, I asked. He says the kids aren't playing their positions. I was done. Couldn't find anything productive to say, so I just left it with their 3-4 years old. Vertical is enough of a position for me. So, I'm raising my nephew, a story for another thread, and he's running cross-country. One of the other parents came up to the new coach and just about bullied him into putting her kid on the varsity team. Now, to be on varsity, you're supposed to be one of the 10 fastest people on your team. Her son ended up being one of the slowest, and he was the kid who always talked crap and blamed bad races on other people. Of course he got super expensive shoes and stuff, and my nephew would just destroy him in races with his hand-me-down spikes that I had worn twice when I was his age. I'm going to get him some new ones for track, because he just held himself to a high standard and busted butt in practice and races. Never once bragged about being as good as he actually is. Cross country is really difficult to argue varsity JV spots with. Numbers tell it all. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video.
You want to learn some Favonia's blade work? Alright then, I'll teach you. Oh yes, I'll teach you all
millions
right.
of dollars in
Mark
medical
my
bills.
word.
Frank Azar made sure that we had those covered and that my mom has all.
Parents can find themselves in a paradoxical mess. What happens when something made to ensure your child's safety a family in 2019, just a few days following the installation of a Ring security camera in the children's shared bedroom? This is what happened.
I'm your best friend. I'm Santa Claus. I'm Santa Claus. Don't you want to be my best friend?
Eye for an eye.
I'm Santa Claus.
As you can see here, just one of the remaining children is present. She's scared, alone, and has no idea how to deal with the strange voice speaking to her via these security cams built in.
I condemn you!
Reports, this harassment lasts a total of around 5 minutes before the little girl cries out to her mom, who's elsewhere in the house at that moment. Before things stop, however, the girl is not only haunted, but she's also encouraged to
freeze to the core!
You mess up
Take
your room,
this! Power that ended
TV,
as a dutiful maid
do whatever you want.
The man even goes out of his way to scare the child by playing Tiny Tim's Tiptoe Through the Tulips, a song many consider scary. If you look at the stories about this clip online, tons of people question the use of a camera in the children's room. As stated earlier, many parents use baby monitors in nurseries, and generally speaking, that's the societal norm. But many find it weird or even creepy that a camera was even installed here to begin with, given that these kids are a bit older. The thing is, this mother, like many, actually has a very real and valid reason for doing so. As it turns out, one of the other children not seen here suffers from a medical condition, and having a camera allows for easier monitoring and documentation
I condemn you!
if something does go wrong. Other parents are also known to keep security cameras indoors.
I must leave no stone
when, let's say, they're at work and they have a babysitter present. As for the man who hacked the webcam, based on how he sounds and what he did, it's pretty easy to determine that this is just a garden variety troll, but nonetheless, it doesn't make what he did acceptable or
rack and ruin.
Harmful. We all know that this world is full of creeps, and while this one was out to make himself known, there are many out there who would have watched silently, not letting anyone know that they were being watched. By that point, who knows what could have happened. What these silent voyeurs could see you or your children.
You can't run!
For all we know, the manufacturer of a security camera could
leave it all to me.
Been a child predator. These days, it's easier than ever to set up a home security
rack and ruin.
While it's definitely not a bad idea on paper, issues begin to unearth themselves when this technology finds itself in the hands of those who just aren't tech-savvy. The people who don't fully understand how these things work, and as such, ironically, haven't set up proper safety precautions to protect the devices meant to protect them.
Eye for an eye. I condemn you.
It isn't just
blood of frost.
Steady as stone. Lives depend on electronic devices in general.
I'll catch up.
But even if we just narrow it down to cameras, they're still everywhere. Our phones, computers, and even our TVs now come with built-in cameras. And there's no telling how many people are out to exploit this for their own gain. These technologies, of course, are extremely important in our everyday lives, be it for keeping us safe or keeping us connected, but without proper education and awareness, these tools will continue to be exploited.
Rack and ruin! I must as a good night should.
It's a day just like any other at Six Flags Kentucky Kingdom. The sun is out, the weather is perfect, and most importantly, people are having a great time. Amongst the many attendees that day was a young 13-year-old girl by the name of Caitlin Lasker and her
I condemn you!
For the trio, the day was still young. In fact, they basically just arrived at the amusement park. The first attraction they decided to ride was called Superman. It's a type of ride that most of us are familiar with. One that lifts riders up in nauseating heights, pauses, and then leads to a terrifying, exhilarating.
I condemn you!
Before you know it, it's all over. While most of us will ride these without incident, the same unfortunately can't be said for young Caitlin.
Take this!
What happened next? Which
judgment? Lights out.
Caitlin and her friends had just finished their first ride aboard the Tower of Power. There wasn't much of a line, so the girls were allowed to second go without even having to disembark. Something that most of us would have probably decided to do ourselves if given the opportunity. For the first few seconds, things seemed to be going as usual. The passenger cars were slowly ascending as they should. Caitlin and her friends were laughing, having a great time just as they did moments earlier. But then, things took a very sudden and terrifying turn for the worst. The girls felt a sudden jolt followed by a loud whipping sound. Before they knew it, they were covered in cables. Now, by this point, they weren't all that far off the ground. Based on different testimonies, at this point the passenger cars were only about 30 to 40 feet off the floor. And keep in mind, this ride was over 100 feet tall. Caitlin and her friends began screaming as hard as they could, begging for the ride to be stopped, but it kept going. The girls managed to get most of the wiring off of them, but there was only so much they could do, and soon enough, they reached the summit. The ride dropped just as it was supposed to. The girls fell just as they did the first time, and stopped at the bottom as the machine is designed to do. Only Caitlin, this time, was not okay. Both of her feet were completely severed by the broken cables. Now, to most of us, this probably sounds like a freak accident, something that happened out of nowhere that was no one's fault, but it's actually not the case. According to reports, the ride operators working that day were both under the age of 18, and whether it be due to lack of training or whatever else, they simply didn't do what they could to prevent this tragedy. In incident reports, it states that the ride operators did in fact notice the snapping noise, the broken cables. They even heard screaming that they categorized as unusual even for a thrill ride. It's important to note that this was also true of the main operator who was standing in front of the emergency brake button. For whatever reason, they decided to call the park emergency line to ask what to do, instead of immediately stopping the ride. Of course, the call took up precious time that was not at all to be wasted given the severity of the situation. Meanwhile, the assistant ride operator, who based on the descriptions wasn't at the control panel, yelled over to the main operator to hit the emergency brake, which finally they did, but it was too late. The ride had begun its freefall, and Caitlin would be severely injured and mentally traumatized for the rest of her life. Caitlin thankfully survived the ordeal, and her friends for the most part only experienced minor physical injuries. Both of her missing feet were recovered, and one luckily was able to be reattached. But as for the other leg, the injuries were so severe that doctors actually had to amputate below the knee. Just a year after the incident, a now 14-year-old Caitlin could be seen speaking publicly regarding the issue of safety and oversight at amusement parks. Ultimately, the official explanation for what happened was that the cable snapped due to fatigue, something that supposedly could have been detected had a newer version of the ride manual been referenced. At the end of the day, what we have here is a deadly mix of incompetence and negligence. People not doing their jobs when doing their jobs could mean the difference between life and death for innocent individuals. And while events like these aren't necessarily common, what happened to Caitlin is still horrifying, and had these people cared, she absolutely would still have both of her legs today and been spared from permanent physical and mental trauma. It goes without saying that we as human beings have the right to live our lives however we see fit. We choose what we do, where we go, when we do things, and who we talk to. It's so embedded into our daily lives that most of us could barely imagine living without this freedom. That being said, we also make mistakes. Some more costly than others, and one innocent misstep could lead us down a path of no return. This, unfortunately, was the case for 20-year-old single mother Amber Alyssa DeCaro, an Indigenous woman from Alberta, Canada, whose murder to this day remains unsolved. Amber had a close relationship with her mother, Vivian, who described her as strong-willed, a tough woman who wouldn't let anyone mess with her. On the surface, everything in Amber's life seemed well and that nothing could really go wrong for her, but that all would unfortunately change in late 2010. August 17th. Amber, who lived in Fort McMurray, decides to take a weekend trip to Edmonton with her then 14-month-old son and a female friend. Instead of staying directly in Edmonton, the pair booked a stay in nearby Nisku, a much cheaper alternative. After arriving, Amber was ready to see the city, eagerly leaving the motel around 7 or 8 p.m. while her son and friend stayed behind. The trip into the city that night was presumably supposed to be brief, maybe just a couple hours of sightseeing and then back to the motel, but this unfortunately was the last time anyone would ever see Amber alive. Again, the women didn't have a ton of money at their disposal and made do with what they could for their trip. Amber, looking to save money, decided to hitchhike her way into Edmonton instead of calling a cab, a decision that at first seemed harmless but would ultimately turn grim. The young mother was picked up by a man, and what you're about to hear next is a short snippet of audio recorded while she was in his car.